Hey, this is Chris, and welcome to this tutorial on implementing diagonal layouts. So there's a couple different ways to implement this. We'll go over a couple. I'll show you some of the browser support for each method. And then just to remind you too that a lot of this stuff is just like guess and check, as a lot of coding is. So take what you see here and extend beyond it and make it awesome. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, here's an example. We've got Stripe, which is famous for its just beautiful design. And you can see they've recently redone their site, and there's a lot of cool movement and color and use of white space and everything. But what I'm focusing on is these nice diagonal breaks that they've implemented so well. So to get started, I've just got a blank index.html and a styles.css. So with my little VS Code extension here, I'm just going to get us some boilerplate going. Get rid of this. Close down the side. We don't need that. And in our styles.css, let's just do the classic background color. We'll do indigo. And go to our site, refresh. Looks like it's not linked. Glad I tested it. Oh, because I didn't put it in there. So /styles.css. And there we go. Nice, beautiful website. So we're going to make a couple of different sections. So in our body, we're not going to use JavaScript today. So let's do a section. And in here, let's do an H1 with welcome to my site. And then another section with an H2 that says about, and a paragraph tag. We'll just type in, I've got an Emmet extension here for VS Code. So if I type in lorem and hit enter, it'll just give me a bunch of lorem ipsum text. And then I'll just grab that and bring it down and do contact. So now we've got a couple of different sections, so it's starting to come along a little bit better. Next, let's go ahead and give each of these sections a class. So class equals, we'll do hero, we'll do about, and we'll do contact, and save it. And then let's give each of those sections a different background color. So we'll do hero. We'll keep that as a background of indigo for now. Indigo. About. Background color of lime green, and contact. Magenta, nice. All right, so this looks atrocious. Let's do a little bit of style resetting here. So for our body, let's do a margin of 0 and padding of 0, and kind of reset some of that stuff out. And then for our paragraph tags, let's give them a margin bottom of 0. What's going on here? Let's take a look. Oh, the H2s have a margin top, so let's get rid of that. So H2 margin top, we can do 0. All right, so now those are at least rolling together. So for our hero, just a couple of quick styles first, and then we'll dive into actually making some diagonal stuff. So we'll give it a height of 75 viewport height, a display of flex, justify content center, align item center. Going above here, we'll grab our H1 and make it a font size of 5 rem to make sure it's nice and big for us. Okay, cool. And then let's do, actually let's rip this out, this display flex stuff, And let's do .hero, comma, .about, comma, and .contact, and give them all display flex, justify and align center. And we'll give them a flex direction of column as well. All right. And then for about, we can give it a padding of like 10 rem top and bottom, and then 5 left and right. And then same thing with that contact section. All right, so now we've got our stunningly beautiful website giving Stripe a run for its money. So the first, and I think simplest way to achieve that cool diagonal look is to use this tool called Clippy. So if you go to bennettfeely.com/Clippy, I'll leave a link in the description. But when you come to this site, it's got all these different shapes. And basically what it does is, say this is like my div. If I grab this yellow circle and drag it up, it's everything that you see that's in this square that is white is basically being clipped off of that div, which you have to be careful, because if I have this image and say there's this, you know, this bridge here, and I want to show the whole bridge, but I want a really extreme sort of like diagonal or like even crazier shape, like a bird or something, that bridge is not going to show up because it's clipped off entirely. So that's one thing to be wary of. But we're going to do something a little bit less extreme. So our bridge is still there. And you can see down here at the bottom, it's adjusting this clip path polygon property for us. So we can just cut that out. You can see the percentages changing. Let's do like 90%. So not super, super drastic. So we're going to copy that. Go over to our code that we want to clip path. We'll do hero. And we'll paste it in and hit save and go back. And didn't see anything yet. Let's make sure. Oh, I see why. So if we get rid of this background color and now hit save, now you can see this nice diagonal line. But notice, by removing the background color of indigo from the body, now we have this kind of weird looking white background. So if you're going to use clip path, it will require some planning ahead, and I'm going to show you one thing that you could potentially do, but again, there'll be some trade-offs if you use this method. So if I know that I'm just going to use a clip path on this hero section, then I can just grab the background color from the next section and apply it to the body so that any gaps will have the background color of the next section. So let me show you what I mean. We saw our hero with the clip path, and we see that our body, or our about section, the next section, has a background color of lime green. So if I copy that and I go up to my body and I paste it in and I hit save, now this about section didn't just magically become diagonal. It's still rectangular, but since the background of the entire body of the website is lime green, it makes this kind of seamless looking transition between the two sections. Now, of course, if you have a site like this, which is hideous to look at, but if you were to have something where you were implementing a bunch of different colors, or maybe even like different shades of like light gray and darker gray, or like an off-white sort of thing, and like using white space really well, you might still run into little issues like this. So it will take some planning. With that in mind, something else to be aware of is that if you go to caniuse.com, I searched clip path, and you can see that the support is not great. So if you're implementing this, just be aware that, especially for like older browsers, you might get some layouts that are different than you anticipated. So clip path, I think, is the quickest and simplest way to get some of this stuff up and running, but there are some drawbacks like cutting out images or content that you're trying to keep there. And then of course the browser support. So next let's get rid of the clip path here. The next thing that we can use is the before or after pseudo selectors. So if I go back to my site, it's nice and flat again. So what I can do is grab the pseudo selector, the after pseudo selector for this hero. So if I go to hero and I do hero : after, follow along with this code, and then I'll explain the little pieces afterward. So content, and then a space in between some apostrophes. We'll do a width of 100%. We'll do a height of, let's do like 10 rem. We'll do a position of absolute. We'll do bottom 0. And then background color. We'll do something kind of weird just so it like stands out. Medium blue. Sounds good. And then for hero, we want to have position relative. So if you're not familiar with position absolute and relative, absolute will take it out of the flow of the DOM, and will place it at the next like containing element that either has position relative, or it'll just be position absolute to the document itself. And so if we're putting it at the bottom of the next relative container, and so since we're setting it relative essentially to like to itself, this will show up at the bottom of this hero div. So if we save this, I'll be able to better illustrate what I'm talking about. So there's our nice blue after pseudo selector section. So you'll notice potentially right away that welcome to my site now looks like it's lower in the hero. Why is that? The reason is because we put this after it started at the bottom, and then the height is 10 rem. So it's taking up 10 rem of space. So if I change this to indigo, it'll look like everything's centered again, which it does. So I'll flip that back to medium blue, and now you can see that bar there again. So if we wanted it to extend into like say the next section, and we didn't want to have any adjustment or any impact on that, then what we could do is do like a bottom, and we could do like minus 10 rem. So if it's 10 rem high and we put it 10 rem below the bottom of the hero, then that should be good. So now it's still nice and centered. So if we go back to can I use and take a look at transform. Yikes, all right, there we go. Transform. So CSS transforms are much more widely supported. So you can see Opera Mini has some issues, but across the board, a lot more green than Clip Path. So what we can do is utilize transform on this after to make a little diagonal section. So let's do transform. We'll do skew Y, and let's do like 10 degrees. All right, well, we've got our nice diagonal stripe, but it's looking a little bit off. It's like cutting off some content. It's like kind of all over the place. So one quick fix, we already moved this 10 rem down. So let's get rid of this bottom. Actually, not get rid of it, excuse me. Put it at 0. And this is a part where you're going to just kind of need to use some trial and error. So we're putting it at the bottom. Okay, that's looking all right. So I want to cover up. What my strategy is going to be is first I want to adjust this angle because this is a little bit too drastic for me. So let's do 5 degrees instead. All right, so that's a little bit more reasonable. The next thing that I want to do is change the color so that it matches this hero section. So let's do indigo. Okay, it's looking a little bit better, but you can see it's like flat, 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 and then diagonal. So let's move it down. So let's see, we had it at 0. Let's try -5 rem and see what that looks like. Okay, that's almost there. I'm seeing a little bit of green here and then a little bit of flatness. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to change the height of this, and I'm going to change the that bottom property. So let's increase the height to like 13 and set the bottom to like 8. All right, so now it's diagonal across, which is good. But there's still a little bit of green there, so let's just add a little bit more height. We'll do 15 and see how that looks. Cool. So now we can adjust this next section, this about section, and maybe give it a little bit more padding. So if this bottom is -8 rem, then what we could do is maybe add that 8 rem back in the form of padding. So we'll do top of 18 rem, right of 5, bottom of 10, left of 5. And that looks a little bit more centered. So you can see the kind of relationship between the bottom positioning of this after pseudo selector and how I adjusted the padding there as well. And so those are two quick ways. Another option that you could use, let's say I don't want to use that after because it's like maybe, taking up too much space or something like that. Let's try one last strategy. We're going to use the transform, but we're going to do it in a slightly different way. We're actually going to impact this whole section. So for contact, we're going to have a nice about green purple line coming down, and then about contact we're going to have coming the other way. So for contact, let's do transform skew y, and we want it to be the opposite. So let's do -5 degrees and see what this looks like. Oh no, what happened to our text? Yikes. Well, we said transform to this entire section, and so the problem with that is that the entire section includes this text. So we need to counterbalance that by grabbing our contact H2 and paragraph, and we'll do transform skew y. Nope, skew y 5 degrees. So we'll just do the opposite. Let's see what's happening. H2 and paragraph inside of contact. Hang on, what am I doing here? All right. Contact class H2 and then comma dot contact and then the paragraph tag. So that should get us going. Cool. So now you can see it flatten back out. But you can see the issue again here is that we've got our green background. But we might be able to get away with our background trick again because it doesn't look like we necessarily need that green background. So let's see if we set our background color for the body to be that pink. It's looking good. All right, so we're having some issues here with the because that background. So what was happening before is if I change this to like black, you'll be able to see it better. So this space, because the body's background was green, was being filled in with green, which was helpful at the time, but not helpful for this bottom section. So if we change this back to, let's do lime green. We got lime green. And then what we could do here is do like another pseudo selector to fill in this bottom space down here with pink. But again, you're probably not going to be using like these crazy, like radical, like nowhere in any sort of color scheme or art class sort of suggestion combination of colors. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But like I said, it's just going to take some experimentation, playing around with the background of each individual section, with the divs, with the body background, et cetera, et cetera. And I should mention again that this was just plain HTML and CSS. You can implement this with Sass. You can implement it with styled components or any other sort of like CSS in JavaScript implementation. This will work across the board. It's just going to, be a matter of syntax. So maybe like I was doing before, you would have like your nested variables or whatever you're going to be using. But this is definitely usable. So in this tutorial, took a look at some different options for setting out diagonal layouts. Clip path is great, quick, easy to get set up. If you're not worried about different browser supports, then that might be your go-to. If you do need to worry about supporting older browsers, or if you just want to try something different, you can use that CSS transform. And then again, making use of the before and after. In my code, I used after and put bottom of whatever. If you were using hero before, it would essentially be the same thing. So instead of the after coming down here, you would have before at the top of whatever section that you're using that tag on. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, as always, please leave them in the comments. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, have a good one.